How are you? My name is Alice Munyua, and I am a nurse practitioner, and today we're going to talk about cancer. I know cancer is the number two second killer of human beings in the world. It's number two, right behind heart and vascular diseases. So what is cancer? Cancer is a fast growing cell. Anytime you hear people talk about cancer, it's it's a tumor. And the tumor grows because your cells are growing faster. They can be stopped. They are not behaving like normal cells. And why do we get cancer cells? And who in the world can get cancer? Sometimes you hear people talking about genetics, that you're getting cancer because it runs in your family, it's in your DNA. You hear people saying that it's because your blood is acidic. You need to eat alkaline food, you need to drink alkaline water, you need to do this and this. But every time they focus on cancer, people only focus on the physical component of cancer. Nobody ever focuses on the emotional component of cancer and also the spiritual component of cancer. I wrote this book about a year ago. I think it was 2017, I do believe. That's when I started writing it. I did finish it early in 2018. And this book talks about Think and Grow Healthier, a balance between spirit, mind, and body. A human being has a spirit, a human being has a soul, and a human being has a body. The mind is the first part of the soul. Anytime you find a human being physically sick, you always have to look at the soul, because all diseases, no matter what they all start in the mind. Cancer is one of them. We don't usually focus on the mind, we just focus on the physical, the part that we see. And when we do that, we are leaving a really big part. Let's say the way a human being was made, God made you, and He thought about everything you could have needed on this planet, on planet Earth. He thought about everything you needed, and He made you. When He made a human being, He stepped back. He looked at the human being He had made, and He said, "It is good. It is very good." That's what He said. Why did He say that? Because He made you well. But now we come to planet Earth, and people start blaming their DNA, thinking that, cancer has a genetic component to it, and that's not true. You can have cancer even if you're eating organic food, you're drinking alkaline water, you're eating the best organic food in the world. People, even wealthy people who can afford all the good foods in the world, can have cancer. So cancer, we have to stop thinking about cancer as a physical disease, and we have to think of it as the origins of it in the mind. We have to think about the emotional component of cancer. So that when God made you, and He figured everything else that you could have needed on planet Earth, He also made your body really, really well. And I like to show people that with a basket. This basket, I bought this basket in Kenya, and you see all the wonderful patterns on it. But the way this basket is made, it has taken a lot of work to make it. There are these white strands and these red strings and the green one, and it's woven together. And when I think about the human body, I think God wove you together perfectly with your DNA and your body that works right. So let's assume that this is the spirit. And let's assume that this is the soul, and this is the body. And He woved you together, one piece at a time, to make sure that you are going to turn out into a beautiful creation. He wove you together. See that? Everything neatly and perfectly woven together. That's how the human body is made. And look at these beautiful patterns. So you have something that's called natural killer cells in your body, and everybody has them. You were born with them, and what they do is they are like soldiers in the body. They surveil the body, and they make sure that every single cell is behaving right. When they see a cancer cell growing, they come, they attack it, they kill it, and then you have other cells that come and eat it up and clean up the mess. So that's how our human being body is made. Now, what makes these natural killer cells not work properly? We always think about the physical. We talk about food, we talk about environment, we talk about everything, but we forget the emotional component of cancer. Fear can make those cells not work properly. And I'm telling you, there is so much fear in the world. People are so fearful of so many things. The number one fear that people have is fear of poverty. People are worried about the economic condition of the country. People are worried about having enough money in the bank. People are worried about their jobs. That's why people work 2 jobs. Some of them work 2 jobs. Others work double shifts, and they're not getting enough rest. When you work so much, so you can make enough money to support your lifestyle, and you don't get enough sleep, those natural killer cells are not going to work properly. The other thing that makes them not work properly is anger. Let's say somebody did something to you, and you're angry about it. You cannot get angry without hurting yourself. Every time you get angry, you produce stress chemicals, cortisol, some other stress chemicals. You activate your inflammation system, because you know why? Because our bodies are wired for love. Everything that we have, our spirit is full of love. Our spirit has power. Our soul is wired for love. Our mind, which is the first part of the soul, is wired for love. Our bodies and our whole neurobiology is wired for love. And anger is not love. When we have anger, the chemical production that's going to go on when you're angry, it causes you to react as if you've been attacked by a virus or a bacteria or a fungus, some kind of something that's not good for your body. And that's why when we look at what God tells us to do, he says, you know what? Forgive people. How many times should you forgive people when they do wrong? 70 times 7 times an hour, if it takes that much. But if people are always upsetting you, sometimes you can move away from them. So anger, fear is one of the things that make our immune system not work well. There's something else. Unforgiveness. What is unforgiveness? Unforgiveness is old anger. Old anger will damage your DNA. So most people don't think about that when we think about cancer. There's something else. When you have unforgiveness in your heart, it turns into bitterness, because whoever wronged you, you feel like they haven't paid for what they did. And you feel angry, and you feel bitter that they got away with whatever they got away with. And I know some people have been wronged. Some people have done bad things to you, and it's very, very difficult for you to forgive. But no matter what they did, if you don't forgive them, it's like pointing a gun at them, but the gun is shooting backwards. It's shooting at you. So every time you get angry, you hurt yourself. Every time you have unforgiveness, it's like taking a knife or a pair of scissors and jabbing your own body. That's what happens with unforgiveness. So it's not good to have that. And I call that the unholy trio: fear, anger, and forgiveness. And you know, unforgiveness always turns into bitterness. So we don't think about those things. There is also another spiritual component of cancer. It has always intrigued me when somebody who has been healthy, somebody who's been feeling good, one morning they wake up, they're not feeling good. They go to the doctor, and the doctor says you have stage 4 cancer. What in the world is going on? You mean cancer can move from stage 1 all the way through to 4, and you didn't even know you were sick? 2 things could be going on. Either you're so disconnected with your body that you can't tell when something is wrong, or you have ignored symptoms, or you are under attack. Most people don't believe in the devil, but the devil loves to use cancer to attack people. Now, the way we treat cancer, I've just gone a little bit on what other things that cause cancer that most people don't think about, and even most doctors don't think about. They always think that, you know, there is a genetic component to cancer, but they don't think about the emotional component. For you to get more information, I urge you to read this book, Think and Grow Healthier: A Balance Between Spirit, Mind, and Body. But before we go on, let's talk about treatment for a minute. The treatment that we give, we encourage people to get screening. And with this, I want you to follow your doctor's advice. Whatever your doctor is telling you to do, follow it. But there are some things that even the doctor cannot help you with. When we talk about screening, we do mammogram, we do colonoscopy, we do pap smear, we do PSA, prostate specific antigen for prostate cancer, and none of those things can prevent cancer. But yet we tell people that's cancer prevention, but it's not. It will never prevent cancer. What those tests do, they catch cancer early so we can have time to treat it. So that's good. Go for screening. Follow your doctor's advice on screening. But let's talk about treatment for a minute. The treatments that we use chemotherapy, which is drugs that we give people to kill those cancer cells. The chemotherapy can go ahead and kill the cancer cells, but it can also kill the good cells. So it makes people sick. We use radiation. Radiation is where we use heat to burn the tumor to either shrink it or to kill it. Radiation can also damage the good cells. And I know now we are coming up with more specific and cancer-targeted radiation where we only focus it on the tumor so it don't have to damage the surrounding cells or the good cells. But still, it's not the most perfect thing to do, but right now that's what we do. We also recommend surgery. What does surgery do? Surgery goes and cuts off the tumor, or it cuts the tumor to remove it as much as possible. Most of the time, you'll find somebody getting all three treatments because we want to make sure that you don't have any more cancer cells in your body. So we do surgery to shrink the tumor or remove the tumorous cells. We do radiation to kill the tumor or shrink it. We do chemotherapy to go ahead and kill the cancer cells. But none of these treatments, and I know we are more sophisticated now because we do immunotherapy also, and I want you to listen to about immunotherapy with a second ear because that's where the problem is. It's the immune system that is a problem. And I'll just give you a few things that you can do to actually take care of cancer. So you can find somebody getting chemo, radiation, surgery, all three, and many other treatments. There is also stem cell therapy. And you can still be cured of this one cancer that you have. And 2 years later or 3 years later, you might develop another type of cancer. So what do? All this money, all this treatment, and I'll tell you, cancer treatment is very taxing to the body. It makes you tired, it makes you fatigued, it makes you weak. It's not the best treatment. But there is something that we forget. Cancer is a fast-growing cell. And if you don't feed cancer, it can actually die a natural death. I know most people, when they're diagnosed with cancer, the first reaction is actually fear. They are distraught. They don't know what to do. And they start rushing into treatments. And cancer is not, I would say cancer is not like heart disease. You don't have to get treatment today. So you can get diagnosed today, but it takes 2 weeks for them to put everything into place for you to start either chemo, for you to go to surgery, for you to start radiation, all those good things. Because they have to test the tumor to see what kind of tumor it is, to see the best approach to get rid of this cancer or this tumor. So one of the things that people could be doing, you can start with prayer. Prayer is very cleansing to your soul. And you'll find that with prayer, and of course you're doing spiritual cleansing, you're also doing repentance. Let's say you have fear. And that's why God tells us, when you fear, don't be afraid. God says, don't be afraid. Because when you fear, you're lacking faith. He says, even if you go through problems, even if you go through troubles, do not be afraid. Because I'm with you, I'll protect you. But yeah, we don't have enough faith to not fear. So we fear about our finances, we fear about so many things instead of trusting God with things that we cannot control. Okay, when it comes to anger, God tells us to not be angry. So when you're doing prayer, you're also repenting. If you have any fear, if you have any anger, if you have any unforgiveness, if you have any bitterness towards anything, you're doing a spiritual cleanse. Combine that prayer with fasting, and you'll see miracles happen right in front of your eyes. If you do fasting, and I know most people don't do fasting, because I've talked to a few people, and actually very few people do fasting. You know what fasting does? People think that if they don't eat, that they're not going to be able to function properly. If you start fasting, intermittent fasting, your body will actually be stronger. And those natural killer cells I was talking about, they get stronger. So your immune system is so strong when you do intermittent fasting. When you do intermittent fasting, it also gives you spiritual power. Let's say the devil is trying to attack you with cancer, and most people don't believe that, but I believe that when you have stage 4 cancer and you weren't sick before, you wake up one morning, you go to the doctor, and they tell you that you have stage 4 cancer, that is an attack on your life. And the devil is trying to attack you. And the only way to stop the devil is through prayer and fasting. That gives your spirit, which is all the healing you need, is in your spirit. All the power you need is in your spirit. All the love you need is in your spirit. So when you do prayer and fasting, you give your spirit supernatural power to be able to prevent any attacks by the enemy. So, but on the same token, fasting gives you a spiritual cleanse, especially when it's combined with prayer. And it also makes your body work properly. How cool is that? So I would say, if you've never done fasting before, talk to your spiritual guide, talk to your spiritual leader, and also talk to your doctor, because some people, if you have other diseases, let's say like diabetes, it might not be safe to start fasting. So talk to your doctor, get your doctor's blessings to start fasting. And if you do that, if you fast, you will shrink the tumor without any chemo, without any radiation, without any surgery. That tumor will be gone. And the average fasting is like 3 days, 72 hours of dry fast. So if for instance, if I were to get cancer today, and God forbid, I don't want to get any cancer, but if I were to get cancer today, I would get all my friends together. I would say, this is the diagnosis I got from the doctor, and I'm going to start prayer and fasting today. Will you help me? Can you help me? Support me. Let's do this together. So you get your family or your friends, and you can do this together. Always start with a water fast. If you've never done fasting before, it's very tricky. You need to get guidance on how to do this. So make sure you do that. But if you're used to fasting, you do 3 days of water fast, and then 3 dry days, and then when you break your 3 dry fast, you start with water again. Don't go into solid food, because that can make you sick. You might end up in the hospital, because when you do dry fasting, your stomach kind of slows down. So you don't want to break your fast with solid food. You want to go easy. So you start with liquids when you break your fast. And you do maybe 1 or 2 days of just clear liquids. And then you move on to food. And if you get a diagnosis like today of cancer, do that, but do it with the support of your doctor, so the doctor can make sure that everything is working as planned. And if your doctor doesn't support fasting, see if you can get a second opinion. Find another doctor who understands what fasting is, and that we all should be doing it. I just want to leave you with one thing. When the disciples of Jesus went to Jesus and asked him a question about fasting, Jesus said, when you fast, that's how he started the conversation. He said, when you fast. He did not say, if you fast. He said, when you fast. That means fasting is supposed to be part and parcel of our lives. And actually, if we take maybe 1 day a month and just fast, if we take 3 days a year and just fast, that is cancer prevention. Because I know we tell people that cancer screening is cancer prevention, but it's not. But now you know. But I want you to follow your doctor's advice, and I also want you to get this book so you can know how the human body works, and you can also know how those natural killer cells work and what makes them weak. Okay, that's it.